one here is going to be the video recording for your reviewer in your final exam. There, our memes. Of course, our reviewer won't be complete without our memes there. There. Okay, so this one here is not really true or false, okay? The concepts here. So this one here are like only the concepts, but your answer here will not be true or false. For example, perfect square numbers like 4, 25, 81 always have how many roots? Of course, the answer here is not true or false, right? But the concepts here will be the basis for your true or false question later on. So let's say we have here again, perfect square numbers like 4, 25, and 81 always have how many roots? What do you think is the answer? The answer here automatically is what? It's gonna be 2. And sir, how come it's 2? Because what? When you say square root of 4, let's say you have your square root of 25, 81. Anyway, I'll just try one here. Square root of 4. Automatically, we will say what? We will say 2, right? Because when you say simply square root of 4, it means the positive root or the principal root. But going further in that one, having our analysis, it's like you have to think when you get the square root of 4, right? You're like thinking of one number that when you multiply by itself will become 4. And actually, 2 is correct, right? Because what? Because 2 times 2, because 2, oops, it's not writing. Because 2 times 2 is actually equal to 4. But isn't it that the square root of 4 can also be negative 2? Again, in your algebra, aside from 2, we can also have 2. Aside from 2, we can also have negative 2. So, what I mean to say is that this one can also be negative 2 because negative 2 times negative 2 is also positive 4. So, sir, what do you mean the answer here a while ago? We have 2 roots. Yeah, we have 2 roots. We have 2 and negative 2. I guess I need to give one more example. Let's say we have the 25. 25 is a perfect square. Again, I told you before that when you say the symbol only, we're just gonna be using the principal root or just the positive root. Like, what's the square root of 25? It's gonna be 5, right? Because our analysis here is gonna be 5 times 5 is what? 25. However, again, thinking about it, the analysis, okay, isn't it that negative 5 can also be an answer? Because negative 5 times negative 5 is also what? Again, negative times negative is positive. Okay? So negative 5 times negative 5 is also positive 25. So how many roots do we have here? We have 5. We have negative 5. I hope we're clear so far on this. Again, so every perfect square numbers have how many roots? The answer is 2. Okay, next. There. So multiplying binomials using the FOIL method, does the order matter in which you multiply the terms affect the result? Okay. Let's analyze this question here. Let's start first with our basic idea. Okay, let's have we have here an example. X plus 2 times x minus 5. And then, isn't it that x is actually a variable? And a variable could be any number, right? It could be any number. So let's say our value of x is equal to 3. Let's say it's 3. Or I guess it will be complicated if it's gonna be. Let's try a different number, like a higher number. Let's say we have here 8. Okay. If x is 8 here, shouldn't this be 8 plus 2 and then 8 minus 5 and then we will multiply? Right? Okay. So the answer here is going to be 10 times what? Times 3. And the answer is going to be 30. So the question is asking, what if we interchange the x plus 2 and x minus 5? Let's say I make this instead as 2 plus x. And then I make this one as negative 5 plus x. Because the x is positive here, the negative 5 is negative. So again, what's the value for x a while ago? It's 8. So this is still 8. This is 8. It's gonna be now 2 plus 8 is 10 times negative 5 plus 8 is what? Is that still positive 3? The answer is still 30. Okay? Sorry, a while ago. The answer is still 30, right? So what I'm saying here, even though you interchange or the arrangement actually of the values there is not important. And actually, even though we use it in FOIL method, let's check the FOIL method. Let's say we have here x plus 2 and then we have x minus 5. Oh, let's use our FOIL method. This is first term, first term, first term, last term, last term. These are inner term. These ones here are outer term. Okay. F-O-I-L. Okay. What's in our first term? Our first term, we have x and x. So what do we do? X times x is what? X squared. Next, in outer term, we have x and negative 5. Again, in outer term, we have x and negative 5. So we have here x times negative 5 is going to be negative 5x. Next one, inner term, what do you have? You have positive 2. Okay. Positive 2 and then x. So we have 2 times x. It's going to be negative 5x. Next, last term, what do you have for last term? You have 2 and negative 5. So what's going to be 2 times negative 5? Shouldn't that be negative 10? Okay. Now, and again, let's find some terms we can combine. Sir, how come a while ago you made? Okay. I'm sorry, I made a mistake a while ago. In the last term, right? Sorry, inner term. It should be what? What's 2x times x? That should be 2x. Oh my god. Okay, I'm so sorry for that one. I hope you can forgive me. There. So, let's try to combine like terms. Again, sir, what do you mean again when you say like terms or common terms? They have what? We just check for same variable with same power. And among this, well, actually, sir, these three terms, right? They have same variable. Well, they have, but only the negative 5x and 2x have same variable with same power. So we can combine them. What is negative 5x plus positive 2x? The answer here is negative 3x. So our final answer here should be what? We have the x squared minus 3x, this one, and then minus 10. Now, to further show you what does the question is trying to say, let me go back again to the given and rearrange, and let's check if we will still have the same answer if we will use FOIL method. Let's say I made this one as, let's make that one as, instead of putting x plus 2, why don't we use 2 plus x? Again, now we rearrange. And then what if now, sir, you just make the x minus 5 like the same? Okay. I just rearrange the x plus 2. And then let's check if upon using FOIL method, can we still get the same answer? We will check. We will see. Again, let's check our first term, first term, first term, last term, last term. These two are what? Inner term. And these two here are what? Outer term. I hope you can still follow. Next. Let's start with our first term. First, outer, inner, last. Okay. First term, what do you have? You have 2, you have x. So it's going to be 2 times x, and that's going to be 2x, not 5x a while ago. I'm so sorry. I'm a bit sleepy already. Anyway, next, let's have the outer term. What do you have for outer term? You have 2 and negative 5. So I'll put here 2 times negative 5, and that should be negative 10. Okay, if you can follow. Next, let's have the inner term. You have x and x. And you know already what's going to be x times x, right? Using our exponential, our loss of exponent, that should be x squared. And our last term, you have x and negative 5. So that's going to be x times negative 5 is what? Negative 5x. Okay, now let's check for like terms that we can combine. Again, same variable with same power, those are like terms, and we can combine them. Upon checking, again, we have here the 2x and negative 5x. They have what? Same power. They have same base, same variable with same power. So again, 2x plus negative 5x is negative 3x. So writing our answer here, we have the what? We have here the x squared, and then minus 3x, and then minus 10, right? The negative 10, so minus 10. So as you can see, let's compare our answer a while ago. A while ago, when it's just x plus 5 times x minus 5, x plus 2 times x minus 5 here, isn't it that the answer is x squared minus 3x plus 10? And when we try to rearrange the x and 2, this one here, isn't it that we actually just arrived with the same answer also? Yes, we did. So the answer here is what? It's no. It's gonna be no. So when multiplying binomials using FOIL method, does the order matter in the result? The answer is it's no. Okay, I hope we're good with that one. Next, does the rule any number raised to 0 equals to 1 always apply? The answer here, let's just make this one simple. The answer is no. Why? Because what? Because 0 raised to 0 again is not equal to 1. Okay, next. In multiplying binomials like x plus 3 and then 2x minus 8, we can use FOIL method, of course, right? Like we did a while ago. When we're multiplying binomials, we can apply our FOIL method. Now, the question here is, can we also use FOIL method in multiplying binomials and trinomials? The answer, let's just make this one simple. The answer is no. Or let's say you will assign your first term and last term. How come it's here? Please erase this one. This is going to be x squared. So we have here 3x minus 2 times x squared plus 3x minus 5. Okay, let's say you assign your FOIL method, your FOIL. F, first term, last term. Now you're gonna be confused. Which one is your inner and outer term, right? So the thing about this one again, FOIL method only applies to binomial by binomial or multiplying binomials. It cannot be applied, okay? It cannot be applied in multiplying monomial by trinomial. Again, FOIL method is only used in multiplying binomial by binomial. Next, tell the x and y coordinate of the point of origin. This one is a very knowledge question, right? Simply what? 0, 0. The value of x coordinate is 0, y coordinate is 0. And then as recalled by Miss Joyce, let's just make this one the proper way. So we should put parentheses. Okay, there you go. Is calculating rate of change the same as calculating the slope? The answer is again another yes, because actually they're with the same concept. Like we solve them using what? Change in y over change in x. Okay, they're just the same thing. Next, let's recall our real numbers. So this one, we can actually answer here true or false. Okay, so all whole numbers are integers. Oh, let's recall our real number system here. It's actually here. I put it here. So all whole numbers are integers. Where is it? If you will check, whole numbers are actually what? They are inside the integers. So if that's the case, this one here is actually true. Right? All integers are natural numbers. Where are the integers? It's here. And natural numbers are here. Definitely no. Okay? Because it's the other way around. It should be natural numbers are integers. Not integers are natural numbers. So this one here is false. There is no irrational number that is a real number. This one here is another false. How come? It's saying there is no, but as you can see again, inside our real numbers, okay, inside our real numbers, we have rational, we have irrational. Okay, last question here in our true or false. All integers are whole numbers. All integers are whole numbers. This one is the integers, this one is whole numbers. Again, this one here is wrong because it's the whole number that is inside the integer. So it should be all whole numbers are integers. So this one here is false. Okay, convert 25 over 99 into decimal. So again, let's recall this. This is our repeating decimals. Okay, so we say, for example, we have here 50, let's say 52 over 99. The answer here is going to be 0.525252. Simply, you're just going to be keep on repeating the number like that. Or you can just put simply as 0.52 and then you put this line on top. So going back here to our question, 25 over 99 here is going to be what? 0.252525 and so on and so forth. Or again, simply, you can also write it as 0.25 but with the line or that bar on top. Okay? Which of the following is the best estimate for the square root of 45? Okay, so actually, let's grab the opportunity that we have here choices. We have multiple choice. So how do you now estimate the square root of 45? Because 45 is actually not a perfect square. Okay, if we will actually find the square root of 45, where can we find it? In between what two perfect square numbers? Actually, we have what? We have here 36 and then 49. Right? So how come, why is it 36 and 49? Well, 36 and 49 are what? Perfect square numbers. Take note. 36 came from what? 6 squared, right? So 6 times 6 is gonna be 36. And then 7 times 7 is 49. So again, if you will find the square root of 36, it's gonna be 6. If we find the square root of 49, it's gonna be 7. So what I'm saying here, the answer is actually in between 6 and 7. Okay, that's why actually the choices here are 6.5, 6.3, 6.7, and 6.8. However, if we will check all of them, it's gonna be, too long to do. Let's check, is 45 much closer to 36 or to 49? Actually, it's to 49, right? 45 is much closer to 49, or to simply the square root of 49, which is 7. So what I'm saying here is that 6.3, 6.5 have a little chance of being the correct answer already. So what we can do is let's check the square of 6.7 and 6.8. Okay, well, let's try first 6.8. 6.8 square, what does it mean? It means 6.8 times 6.8. We have here 6.8 times 6.8. 8 times 8, we have there, what? 64, carry 6. 8 times 6 is 4. 8 times 6 is gonna be what? 48, plus 6 is 54. 6 times 8 is gonna be 48, carry 4. 6 times 6 is 36, plus 4 is 40. There. So we have 4, 2, 1, 6, 4. So how many decimal places? 1, 2. 1, 2. So the answer here, 6.8 squared is actually 46.24. So it's higher. It's higher than 4.5. So automatically 6.8 is wrong. Again, we're looking for, or actually, not automatically wrong, but it's quite far, right? It's quite far to 45 already. So what do we do is let's check first if 4.7 will work, and then we will see which one is much closer to 45. Let's check what is 6.7 squared. Again, 6.7 squared, it means 6.7 times 6.7. We have 6.7 times 6.7. 7 times 7 is 49, carry 4. 7 times 6 is 42, plus 4 is 46. 6 times 7 is 42, carry 4. 6 times 6 is 36, plus 4 is 40. This is 4489. How many decimal place? 1, 2, 1, 2. So when you square 6.7, the answer is what? The answer is 44.89. There you go. And now let's compare. Which one between these two numbers here are much closer to 45? I guess it's kind of obvious. It's what? It's the 44.89. So our answer here should be letter B. Okay? Next. Given the volume of the cube is 125 cubic meters, find the measure of each side. So when you say volume of a cube, let's say for example, this one is, actually we have a given here already, a cube. But okay, let me try drawing that one. There. Let me try to illustrate first our cube. Oops. There you go. So let's say we have there a cube, and then if the given dimension of a cube here, let's say that one edge or one of its side is measuring, let's say, 2 centimeter. To find the volume of that, what you just have to simply do, the volume of this is what? Again, V or volume is simply 2 cube. Or what? What's the volume here? That's gonna be 8 cubic centimeter. That's how you find volume. Now, let's say that your side here is not 2. Let's say your side is gonna be, let's change the values. Let's say it's 4. Okay, let's say it's 4 centimeter. So your volume is gonna be, you cube the 4, it means 4 times 4 times 4, and that should be 64. So your volume is 64 cubic centimeter. Just like the formula here, we're actually just multiplying the side by itself. Okay, you're cubing it. You multiply by itself 3 times, so you cube it. Okay, now I hope you're able to understand it. Now, let's say your volume is already given, which is 125. Again, the volume is already given. What's the volume? Again, V is equal to what again? Let's say the side is A, like in the formula here. A cube, right? Because you're just cubing the side. So, given the volume is 125 here, what should be the value of A so that when you cube it or when you raise it to 3, the answer is 125. And again, it means what? You have to think of a number that when you multiply by itself 3 times, your answer is gonna be 125. And here, I guess you're having the idea already that the value of A should be 5. Right? How come, sir? Because 5 cubed is equal to 5 times 5 times 5 is equal to 125. Okay, I hope it makes sense now. Next one. So arrange the following from greatest to largest. Again, always be careful with this question here. Greatest to largest, so mean to say biggest first. Again, when you say greatest, it's like big to small or biggest to smallest. Okay, and sir, how do we compare them? Well, some of them are in radical form, some are in fractional form. So much better that you compare them first into similar way. Like you can compare them through what? Their decimal values. So let's just use our estimation for pi again as 3.14. So if pi is gonna be 3.14, so what is 3.14 plus 4? That's 7.14, right? Or you know the square root of 49, and that's 7. What about sir 22 over 3? Oh, let's check. 22 divided by 3. Oh, shouldn't it be 7 times 3, which is 21? Remainder 1. Okay, decimal point 1. And then, again, after the decimal point here of the 22, take note that you have unlimited number of zeros, right? Bring down 0. 0 times 0, 0 times, sorry. You have here 10, divided by 3 is what? 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtraction, 1, 0 again. 3, 3 times 3 is 9. So it's gonna be repeating, right? So although we can just put here the first two decimal values, which are 7.33. Oops, not that one. So this is gonna be 7.33. And then the last one is already in decimal, 7.21. Now, sir, how do we compare them? Okay, because some will automatically say, what do you call this? They will just compare the 14, 33, 21. Well, that's actually sometimes will work, but what we can do here is, why don't we convert them first into all of them into two decimal places? Okay, so this is gonna be 7.00 there. Now we can compare them. So which one is the smallest? Sorry, the question is greatest to least. So the biggest first. In our biggest, this is the biggest, right? What's the value of that? 22 over 3, comma, which is the next one? Of course, the 7.21. You need to write the original value, okay? These are the original values. And then, which is the next biggest? The next one is the pi plus 4. And the last one, or the least, or the smallest, is our square root of 49. And I hope this one is clear with you. Okay? Next. Which of the following will make the statement true? Or which of the following symbol will make the statement true? So this one actually no need to complete the solution or the solving itself because let's start here the comparison. Why don't you start first on the right side? Because isn't it that 16 is a perfect square? What's the square root of 16? That's 4. And plus 10, what's 4 plus 10? That's only 14. But comparing that on your left side, you already have your 16 and then you will still add something. So automatically, think that the left side is bigger. And how do you put the symbol? The opening of the symbol here should be facing the bigger number. Again, the opening, this one here, should be facing the bigger numbers. So this is gonna be like 16 plus something, right? So automatically, that's bigger than 14. So the answer here is letter C. Next, which of the following symbol will make the statement true? Okay, so again, let's use our analysis here. So what's gonna be this one? We will just do our first estimation. Okay, let's list down our perfect square numbers again. What are our perfect square numbers? We have 1, 4, 9, 16. Oh, I'll stop with 16 already. Where did that came from again, sir? What is 1 squared? It's 1. 2 squared, 4. 3 squared, 9. 4 squared, 16. Okay? So I hope you can still recall about that one. Now, where can you find 2? 2 is in between 1. In between 1 and 4. And what's the square root of 1? It's 1. The square root of 4? It's 2. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 16 is 4. Okay. So, from that, we can actually say that actually 2 is in between what? Is in between 1 and 2. And what we can just do here for quick estimation, just get the number exactly in between 1 and 2. What's that? It shouldn't that be 1.5? Okay. And then, how about 8? Where can you find 8? In between 4 and 9. So, getting the square root, it's gonna be 2 and 3. So, getting exactly the number in between 2 and 3, we'll have here, what? 2.5. Again, not just the number in exactly in between. So, we have here 2.5. So, we have the 12 minus 2.5. And then 8 minus 1.5. This one here is gonna be 6.5 on the right side. And on the left side, you have here 9.5. So I guess already you know which one is bigger. Again, the symbol should be facing the bigger number. Okay, so that should be letter C. Okay, next, evaluate. The quantity 3x raised to 5 raised to 4. So this one is our, again, example of the one of distribution, and then we will use what? Power of a power rule. So this will become what? 3, and then you have your x raised to 5. And simply, since both of them are inside your parentheses, both of them, they should have the power of 4. And you know what's 3 raised to 4? It means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, 4 times. And that should be what? 81. And then you have here x raised to 5. Sorry, yeah, x raised to 5 and then raised to 4. What rule should be used here? Oops, my pen. Okay, so what rule should be used here? You have 2 powers. Your power pool. What do you do? Use power of a power rule. So what do? You multiply. So it should be x raised to, what's 5 times 4? 20. That should be the answer. Some might say the answer is 12x raised to 20. Definitely no. Okay, please, that's not the answer because some students will just do 3 times 4 and that's wrong. Okay, please take note of that one. Okay, next. Simplify. or your power of zeros. What do you have here? So 5 minus 2, that's going to be 3 raised to 5. By the way, this one is your PEMDAS. Times 3 raised to negative 8 plus, again, it's going to be what? 7 raised to 0. And you know already, any number raised to 0 except 0 is what? It's equal to 1. So this one here, sir, can we just bring down the 3 raised to negative 8? Because it's negative, right? Yeah, it's okay. It's correct. But can we also do first the product rule? Yeah, we can also do that. So can it be here 3 raised to 5 plus negative 8? Yes, again, that is also correct because this is product rule. You're multiplying exponential expressions with same base. Okay, and that's 3. So this is gonna be what now? 3 raised to 5 plus negative 8 is negative 3. And then we have the plus 1. So this one will go down because it is negative. So we have now 1 over 3 raised to 3 is equal to 1. Well, wait, equal to? Naantok na. Okay, plus 1. There you go. So 3 raised to 3, that's gonna be what? 27, then plus 1. Actually, your answer here could be already be 1 and 1 over 27. That's correct already. But for some, you may also what? Convert that into a mixed fraction like 28 over 7. 27. There you go. Okay? So, either of these two is okay already. Now, what if we have here like, let's just change a given. You have very big numbers like 1000 times 7 plus 4 times 54,000, like that. And then suddenly you raise to 0. What's the answer? Of course, again, all of them are inside the parentheses, right? And if that's the case, all of them have the power of 0, and any number except 0 raised to 0, the answer is what? The answer is equal to 1. Okay? Next. Evaluate the expression. Negative 4a raised to 1. Again, what's the rule of the power of 1? Any number raised to 1 is just equal to the number itself. So simply, what's the power of 1? It's only the a. So a raised to 1 will become a. But take note that you still have here the negative 4. So the answer here should be what? Negative 4a. As simple as that. Okay? Next, evaluate the expression. So this one here is an example of what we call what? Difference of two squares. Because, again, if we have here same values, right? x3, x3. And then, you have plus and minus. What do you do here? You get those repeating values, and then what do? You square them, and you subtract. What's x raised to 2? Simply x squared. Minus 3 squared is 9. And that's your answer already. As simple as that. Okay, maybe this one is still lacking the example. Why don't we try... we have here the next one. Here. So let's say we have here 2x minus 5 times 2x plus 5. So again, as you can see, this one is a special identity. There are values just being repeated and the signs are just opposite. So I'll put here 2x and then 5. What do? We square that. And then we subtract. So 2x raised to 2. Sir, is it you multiply this one and this one? Definitely again, no. But this is 2 squared, right? 2 times 2 is equal to 4. Okay? Because some might... Okay, I'll just give a different number just in case. Because some might think I just multiply these two numbers. A lot are doing that. So what if we have here 3 squared? Again, that's not 3 times 2, huh? That should be what? 3 times 3, which is equal to 9. It just suddenly happened here that we have 2 and 2. Anyway, so 2 squared is again 4. And then x raised to 2 is what? X squared minus 5 squared is 25. So that's already our final answer. Okay. Next. How about this one, sir? So this one is still special because we still have the same values, 4x, and then 7, 7. However, the signs here are not anymore what? They're not anymore opposite. The signs are already the same. Actually, this one is what we call perfect square trinomial. And what do we do if this is the case? Okay, look at this. This is what we have here. A plus B times A plus B is actually equal to A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. So, we can actually still somehow do the same concept a while ago. Like, you square first the first and the last term. So, you have here 4x and then you have the 7, right? However, you need to put a space in between. You square this. You square this. Okay? What is 4x raised to 2? That should be 16x squared. 7 squared is gonna be what? 49. However, again, this is not difference of 2 squared. Wherein we will just simply put here minus. It's different because our signs are not anymore opposite signs. We have here same sign. And what do we do here is this one. Actually, if you will follow the formula here, it says 2AB. So you have here, anyway, the sign here is plus, right? So plus 2 times, what's your A? In A and B, simply, those are the 4x and then the 7. So the answer here, we have 16x squared plus 2 times 4 times 7. That should give us what? 56x and then plus 49. This one here should be the final answer. Okay, I guess we need one more example. And while I'm writing the example, you may just pause first the video and then you can try. What if we have here 3x plus 8 times 3x plus 8? What do you do? Again, you get the two repeating values. You have here 3x, you have here 8. What do? You square both of them. Again, this is not difference of 2 square. This is what again? This is the perfect square trinomial. So what you do now here in the middle, you put what? Since this is plus, so in the middle you also plus. And then 2 times, again, there's always 2. We have here 3x and then times 8 plus. So the answer here should be 9x squared plus 2 times 3 is 6 times 8 is 48. We have the x plus 64. And that one is the answer. You may just rewind the video if it's not yet clear. Okay? Next. What's the difference between difference of 2 squares and then perfect square trinomial? So DOTS, difference of 2 squares, just simplify it. And then we have here perfect square trinomial. Okay? We will compare those two. Again, DOTS and PST. How do we distinguish them? Okay. First things first. Of course, difference of 2 square. I'll put it here. Let me have here perfect square trinomial. So Let's check on their comparison and how do we know which one is a difference of 2 square and which one is a perfect square trinomial. Okay? So when you say difference of 2 square, it always uses perfect square numbers or values. So you have here, the examples of this are what? You have x squared minus 9. You have here 4x squared minus 16. You have here, let's say, 9x squared minus 25. As you can see here, in the difference of two squares, okay, it really say everything about the values. It says what again? Difference of two squares. So, again, difference of two squares, difference of two squares. So, in difference of two squares, you have what? You're doing subtraction of two perfect square values. Okay? And actually, DTS is what? It's a binomial, right? Because there are like only two terms, right? However, perfect square trinomial is from the word itself, is a trinomial. And what are the examples? So we have here what? Let's say we have x squared plus 2x plus 1. Say we have here 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. What else? Let's say we have here 9x squared plus, then I'll put in the last term. Let's say we have here plus 4 plus 12x there. Now, sir, how do you know that this one given on the right is a perfect square trinomial? So again, the first on this one here, the first and the last term are what? They are the first and the last term in the perfect square trinomial are what? Are perfect square numbers also. Okay, same thing again. So this one here, first and last terms are perfect square. Same thing with this. So still first and last term are perfect square. Again, this is not the really the answer because it's asking for difference. I just give you an idea already. Last term are perfect square. Now let's check what's the difference. So what's the first difference? Of course, perfect square trinomial has what? It has middle terms, right? It has middle terms. It has middle terms here. Okay? Unlike the difference of two square. Now the question, sir, is how do we really know that this given here is a perfect square trinomial? Because we can put any values in between, right? Actually, for it to be a perfect square trinomial, look at this one. What is the square root of your x squared? Isn't it x? What's the square root of 1? It's 1, right? What's 1 times x? It's x. Times 2? You have 2x. Again, always times 2. So you have here 2x. Next, you have the 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. What's the square root of 4x squared? It's 2x. What's the square root of 1? It's 1. What's 2x times 1? It's 2x, right? Times 2? It's 4x. Next one. What's the square root of the first and the last term here? Let's say 9x squared. It should be what? 3x. Square root of 4 is 2. Multiply them. What's 3x times 2? It's 6x. Times 2? It should be 12x. So in that way, we can say a given is a perfect square trinomial. Because let's say I have here 9x squared and then plus 4 here and then I put here plus 5x. Is that a perfect square trinomial? Actually, no. This one is not PST because if you will check again, it should be, it's supposed to be 12, right? Okay, not 5x. So that's the idea on how do you know the difference, or how do you know whether a given value is a difference of two square or a perfect square trinomial. Okay? Next, factoring. So how do we do this? So simply, this is the opposite of what we did a while ago. So get the square root of this, square root of this. What's that? What's the square root of k squared? The answer is k. Square root of 121, the answer is 11. Okay? So we have here k11. What you do is you just duplicate that, and then you put here plus, minus. Again, this is actually difference of two squares. That's the answer already. Maybe you're looking for another example again. Or you may pause the video first and then try. What if you have here 4x squared minus 25? You may pause the video first. Okay, let's answer. Get the square root of this, square root of this. What's the square root of 4? It's 2. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 25 is 5. And then, again, what do? We duplicate. And we put here plus, minus. Sir, can it be minus plus? Yes, of course, it's okay. There you go. Very good. Okay, so these are the answers here. Next one. So again, this is DTS, or difference of two square. And actually, the second one here is a PST, or a perfect square trinomial. So how do we know again that if it's a perfect square trinomial? The first and the last term are what? They're perfect square. And then, if you get their square root, what's the square root of 4x squared again? It should be what? 2x. Square root of 1 is 1. What's 2x times 1? It's 2x, right? Times 2, it should be 4x. So this one here satisfies our perfect square trinomial. So now, how do we answer, sir? So again, what you do here is you get the square root of 4x squared. We did it already a while ago. It's 2x. We get the square root of 1. Again, we get the square root of 4x squared. That's 2x. We get the square root of 1. That's 1. You can just also duplicate it again, like that. And then, sir, what about the sign? Should we also put plus, minus? Well, no, because this one is different from difference of two square. What do we do here is we get the sign of the middle one. Always, if this is minus, you put here minus. But actually, the given here is plus, so we should put here plus and plus. Sir, can our answer also be written as 2x plus 1 and then squared, because they're just the same thing, right? Yeah. So either of these two, it's okay. Very good. Next one here. So actually this one, if you will check, sir, can this be classified as difference of two square? Definitely no, right? Because there are three terms here. It's a trinomial. So now let's check. Can it be a perfect square trinomial? Also no, because 2x squared is not a perfect square. Negative 27 is not a perfect square. Okay, now what do we do here, sir? So we can just use here our previous method last time, our AC method. What do we do here first? We remove the 2 here, put it here. We have now x squared minus 15x. What is negative 27 times 2? Again, times 2 here. We have here negative 54. Now, we can apply our original technique. This is what? The sum and the product. So, analyze. Think of two numbers that when you multiply is negative 54. And when you add is negative 15. Okay, think. Mm-hmm. Think. Actually, I guess this was corrected last time by Miss Joyce because I was trying to think of the answer and it says it's wrong. I mean, I realize it's wrong. The given is wrong. This should be plus 27. Okay, so going back, it should be what? Plus 54 here also. Okay, okay, you might be confused, so let me do that one again. One more time, sorry. Because upon analyzing the given, there's something wrong. Okay, so again, what do we do here? Using our AC method, we remove the 2 first because we cannot analyze it using sum and product if there's a number in front. What do we do? It's gonna be now x squared minus 15x plus 27 times 2. So it's gonna be x squared minus 15x plus 54. Again, we multiplied the 2. Next, analyze. This is what? Sum. This is product. So try to think of two numbers that when you multiply is positive 54. But when you add is negative 15. So definitely you will involve here negative numbers. And since you will involve negative numbers, you analyze. If your answer here is gonna be a positive and negative, shouldn't be your answer negative? Okay. So what I'm saying, maybe you'll get confused already. So let's just try to write or list our possible answers here. What are the numbers that when you multiply is 54? Well, of course, you have the numbers a while ago, right? Say we have here 27 and 2. Okay? I will duplicate it because isn't it that it's also possible that it's gonna be positive 27 times 2 is equal to 54? And then negative 27 or negative 2? Oh, sorry. Negative 27 times negative 2 is equal to also 54, right? Make sense? What are the other factors? Hmm, what about sir 9 and 6? Yeah, we can do that. 9 times 6 is equal to what? It's also 54. And also, can we try negative 9 and negative 6? Let's check. So, what's 9 times 6? It's also 54. We're correct. What's negative 9 times negative 6? It's also positive 54. So, they satisfy the product. But do they satisfy also the sum? Let's check. What is 27 plus 2? Can that be negative 15? Definitely. It's a big no. Okay, so this one here is wrong. Next, negative 27 plus negative 2. Can that be negative 15? Definitely no. 9 plus 6. Can we have their negative 15? No, it's positive 15. It's wrong. What about now negative 9 plus negative 6? Can we have negative 15? Yes. So the negative 9 here, I'll put here the negative 9 minus 9 and positive 6. They're correct. Okay. What's our variable here? We have x, so x minus 9 and x plus 6. Those are our initial factors because since a while ago, you multiplied by something, right? You multiplied by 2. Now, you wanted to take it back. By how? So, what's the opposite of multiplication? It's division. So, you divide this by what? By the same number you multiplied a while ago. So, let's start first on the right side. What is 6 divided by 2? Definitely it's 3. It's very obvious, right? But sir, what about now the 9 divided by 2? Can we do that? Well, we can, but the answer is not gonna be an exact number, right? If the given is like this, what do? Is what? You simply just put this number here. So your answer is gonna be 2x minus 9. So that one is already our final answer. Okay? Wait, I made a mistake a while ago. How come, sir, it's positive 6? Sorry. Is it what? I get confused already. This one is negative 6, right? Okay. Just to clarify, it should be minus 6. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. There. I hope you can forgive me with that one. Again, it's negative 9 here. So negative 9. Negative 6 here. Negative 6. Okay? So that's our answer already. Okay? Next one. Almost done. So find the area of the rectangle with length 4x minus 7 and width of 3x plus 5. So how do we find the area of a rectangle? How? See, we have a rectangle here with size, let's say 7 by 5. Let's say 7. What's 7? What do you do here? How do you find the area? Area is simply length times width. What's your length here? Of course, the longer side. That is 7. So your area is equal to 7 times, what's your width? 5. So your area should be what? 35. Or let's say this one as unit. Let's say inches. Inches. So your answer is 35 square inches. Okay? So going back with the question. The question now is saying, let's say you have a rectangle. This one. And then your dimensions are what? Let's say the length and width are what? You have here 4x minus 7. And you have here 3x plus 5. What's the question? The question is find the area. And again, what do you do here? You multiply the length and the width, right? So simply, you will just do the same thing. You also multiply them. So you will have here 4x minus 7 times 3x minus 5. Sorry, plus 5. I hope you're able to follow. Why did you multiply them? Because again, we're looking for what? We're looking for the area. And area is equal to what? Length. The length is 4x minus 7. And then times the width. And your width is 3x plus 5. This one here. Okay? Now, in multiplying binomials again, we use FOIL method. FOIL. What are your first terms? You have the 4x and 3x. Okay? So you have here 4x times 3x. What's on your outer term? Outer term, we have the 4x. We have the positive 5. I hope you can still remember how do you find the FOIL, okay? The FOIL. So we have in the outer term again, we have the 4x times 5. In your inner term, you have the negative 7 and 3x. So negative 7 times 3x. And then in your last term, what do you have in last term? You have negative 7 and 5. So we have here negative 7 times 5. Let's simplify the given. So 4x times 3x, you have now 12x squared. 4x times 5, you have 20x. Negative 7 times 3x, you have negative 21x. And lastly, negative 7 times 5, you have here negative 35. If you will check again here, the outer term and the inner term, you can combine them because they're like terms. They have the same variable with same base. So 20 plus negative 21, it's negative 1, right? So you can just put here negative 1x. But again, no need to put the what? No need to put the the 1, of course, right? So simply, that one is going to be negative x. You have here then the 12x squared, and then we have the minus 35. So the final answer here should be what? 12x squared minus the x minus 35. Okay? So there's no unit given actually. So you can just ignore the unit for this time. Okay? Next one. Determine the coordinates of the points and tell the quadrants. So let's start with the point A. Say A. Okay. So we have here, oops, A, B, C, D, E. Okay, point A. Where's point A? This one. So point A is on what? What's the value of x here? It's obviously it's 3, right? So it's 3, comma. What's the value of y here? You have 4. Next. What about B? Where's B? There. What's the value of x there? X is negative 3. Value of y. Again, always x comma y, our coordinate. That's gonna be 2. Point C. What's the value of x? Oops. What's the value of C here? Sorry, what's the value of x here? The value of x is negative 2. And the value of y is negative 4. Last one. Next one. Point D. What's the value of x here? It's 6. Value of y, negative 3. Last point, point E. That's your point of origin, 0, 0. Okay, next. The other question is saying, on what quadrant are they located? Okay, located. So point A, quadrant 1. Again, this is quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. And this is quadrant 4. So what about point B? Quadrant 2. Point C is quadrant 3. Point D is quadrant 4. And point E, is it in any quadrant? No. It's in where? It's in the point of origin. Okay. Additional question. What if our point is like on here? Can you see this? This purple point. And then that's our point F. Let's say it's on point F. What's the location of the point F? Is it on any quadrant? No. Where can you find this one? It's on the x-axis. What about you have here another point? This one. This is point G. What's the location? Is it on any quadrant? No. It's on the what? Y-axis. Okay. I hope we're clear so far. Next one. There you go. So the graph shows the relationship between the amount of time that a backpacker hikes and the distance traveled. So find the rate of change from 5 hours to 10 hours. Okay. So what do we do? Let's find first where are the hours. Where is 5 hours and 10 hours? If you will check here, where is 5 hours? It's on the, by the way, the time is on the x, right? And then your y is the distance. So 5 hours is 1 to 10 hours. So the 5 hours is actually this point. And the 10 hours is this point. Okay. Now let's get those coordinates. Okay. So it's gonna be the first point, the 5 hours is what? It's 5, 6. Because this one here is what? 2, 4, 6, 8, like that. It's even numbers. Next, what about 10 hours? It's 10, what? 10, 12. Now, let's just do the pairing. So, change in distance or change in y over change in x. Again, that's the formula for the rate of change. Okay. So, change in distance. or change in y. What are your y? Your y's are what? You have 6 and then 12. Your first y is written already. It's 12. What's your other y? It's 6. Okay. Next, change in x. What are your x? You have what? You have 5 and then you have 10. So the 10 is here already. What's the other x? It's 5. You subtract that, it's gonna be 6 over 5. Simplify, not anymore. Simply your answer is 6 over 5. Okay, that's it. Next one. So this one also, again, change in distance over change in time, right? Or change in y over change in x. This is x, this is y. Our variables here, so x and y, okay? X is hours, y is the miles walk. So the question is, find the rate of change from 1 hour to 2 hours. Where is 1 hour? This is 1 hour. So this point, we will use this point here. And then 2 hours, we will use this point. Okay? So let's get the coordinate of those points. What's the coordinate in 1 hour? The coordinate is 1, 2. How about for 2 hours? The coordinate is 2, 4. Again, by the way, if you're getting confused, take note, this is x and y. This is x and y, right? For my students, they know already about the x sub 1 and x sub 2, maybe, right? But, okay, let's just use this one. Let's just solve this one using rate of change. But if you want, you can also use the formula for slope. Okay, change in y. What are your y? You have 2 and 4. Okay, the 4 is here already. So the other y is 2. Next, change in x. Your x are what? You have 1 and 2. The first x is here already, 2. What's your other x? It's 1. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Divide that. You have 2. So the slope, the rate of change is actually 2. Okay? Next. So this is the second to the last question. So when the projector is 3 meters from the wall, okay? So when the projector is 3 meters, let's check the pattern here. The projection is 9 meters wide. Okay? 9 meters wide. And then, when the distance is 6 meters, the projection is what? 36 meters wide. Now, how far should the projector be to have a projection of 81 meters wide? Actually, there's a pattern, right? You're just what? You are just squaring the numbers here. What's 3 squared? That's 9. What's 6 squared? That's 36. So what number do you square that the result is gonna be 81? That should be what? That should be 9. And 9 squared, again, it's 81. As simple as that. So the answer here is how far? So 9 meters. Okay? And the last question, how do you know if a table shows proportional relationship? So let's say we have here a table. Like, okay. So this table here. These are your x values and then y values. Say we have here 4, 5, 6, 7. How do you know that this is going to be a proportional relationship table? If what? You will have the same number you're just multiplying. So let's say we have here times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. What's 4 times 2? It's 8. 5 times 2 is 10. 6 times 2 is 12. 7 times 2 is 14. If this is the case, that you're just going to be multiplying the same number all throughout to get the y values, that one is a proportional relationship. Okay? That's it. And I hope somehow this one will help you in your reviewing. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm a bit sleepy already. Anyway, so I hope this one is clear with you. If not yet, please just let me know